Moving on to number 17, Town Plan of Conservation and Development. I don't know, let's take it up, John, I guess.
Well, the subcommittee or the ad hoc committee is working assiduously. Not making, I think, as much progress as we would like, but I think we're looking, hopefully this Thursday, to iron out a process. And specifically what we need to do at this point, I believe, is work backwards from a point of proposed adoption, then back to, when that needs to be publicly noticed. It needs to go to the state, it needs to go to the region, it needs to be advertised, and so that final version that is, scheduled for public hearing needs to be ready at a certain point. That's probably 35 days prior to the end of June, and sort of work backwards from there, and a schedule of chapter edits and completions, a final sort of layout design that the full commission will want to take a look at, so what a chapter, what the cover will look like as a template, and then we can run the rest of the chapters through that process. And ideally we'll work through that sort of working backwards schedule this Thursday, and that will set up some very hard benchmarks.
I think we need a review of what the steps are in this process to make it a final adopted plan of conservation and development. When do we have a public hearing first, then it goes to the Board of Selectmen, or the other way around? Or does the Board of Selectmen come into play?
The Board of Selectmen just gets to take a look at it. They don't have to vote on it. They don't get to vote on it. It's the purview entirely of the Planning and Zoning Commission. But you would give them the standard 35 days that you would give the region.
So the key for us is to schedule a public hearing.
That's right. And working backwards from there.
And working backwards from there.
And because you would be, although I know you guys don't necessarily always take action on the same day as you have a public hearing or you close a public hearing, that is an option. You could close the public hearing and vote on the plan. All on the same day, should you so choose.
That's, given what we've gone through with this plan, I don't see that being realistic.
Yeah.
So we're going to work from 30 days from when we would vote on it and go backwards and make that the public hearing. So are you suggesting that we ought to have a public hearing in May or June?
May.
I would like to do it in May.
I don't think it's going to be feasible in terms of the number of sections that still need to be reviewed. I'm working back from the timeline I created and when it needs to be designed, when the commission needs to sign off on it. It's just too tight at this point. I understand that you want to get it done by that date, but I think there's enough reviews in here, in the process along the way, that we really shouldn't get to that point with anything glaring. I mean, there could be minor edits here and there, but I don't.
Did you make any progress this last week? Did you have a quorum? Did you?
No.
Just no.
What we'll do on Thursday is I've come up with a schedule. I discussed it with the chairman, I've discussed it with CME. Within that schedule, there's a process to get us moving. This process is going to eliminate the back and forth that's currently taking place and the miscommunication. Part of that process would be that CME is going to disseminate these drafts. Comments are going to go directly back to CME. On the Thursday meetings, that means people who are participating in the working group are going to get a chance to sit down and discuss those edits. Any edits the land use office has, any edits people within the working group have, or any edits that the Planning and Zoning Commission wants to forward on to CME. But there's going to be a direct conduit for all information that's going to go back to CME. There's just been too many loose ends, there's too many drafts going back and forth, and I think that's why we're ending up getting into 3-week schedules, reviewing drafts, and we just need to tighten up the ship, I think. So we'll discuss it on Thursday if anybody has any concerns.
So CME is to direct the flow under your proposal. Land use is not going to get in the middle of that flow, other than to participate at the ad hoc committee meetings to inject whatever suggestions land use might have. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
That'll be the suggestion, obviously
Well, we're going to vote on it. That's the way I'd like to do it, so that we don't have any issues about it. It'll be a directive from the entire commission. If that is what seems palatable to the rest of you, I would like to frame it as a motion, we vote on it, and then work backwards from whatever the date is, but the dates better not be beyond June. Understood?
May. June comes right after May.
Not beyond June.
Where does the state fit in this process?
I think we send it to them, we send it to OPM just as a heads up as well, you know, in 35 days.
I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but you're in your 10th year, and if you don't have a plan adopted within the 10th year, you start losing funding. So this has got to happen.
To me, the real issue should be about the absolute content of the document. As far as the formatting and the prettifying it, I feel like that can happen after the June thing, obviously. Is that?
No, it all has to happen by
Well,
June.
I don't think that should be an emphasis. I mean, to me, the document still at this point is kind of, I think it needs to be solidified more. It needs to have one voice through the document. You know, and it's not an easy task, okay? And I would like the emphasis to be on the writing of it and getting that really, really done.
That's easier said than done.
Well, yes, it
We've
is.
been
But
writing this
adding,
for a while.
that's true, but to me, adding the formatting thing and all that, I mean, that's, I don't think it's,
Well, has this been
The
discussed
right
at your
way.
meetings on Thursday mornings?
No, I don't think that particular, I don't think that's been discussed.
We've discussed the content, that we've done precisely what your mandate said. We have basically gone over the sections and reviewed the sections of the document. But we haven't done this, it doesn't hang together. Because with the exception of, we're getting close to it on the planning areas now. I mean, because some of these battles are battles we've been having for a year with the specificity of the planning areas. And we're interjecting, Christine and I worked on it again today, more specificity. So that the document actually can serve as a guide to zoning decisions. If it's not specific, you can justify anything.
What I would recommend tonight, so Anselmo is asking that we go forward with the process of how we're going to start signing off on this draft and the flow of information. On Thursday, I'm going to bring with me a draft of the timeline, and that brings us to a June 8th delivery date of the document. And that's at the regular monthly meeting. And in there, there's a 2-week time frame for design. And that's pretty much it at this point. But we can discuss it further. I think at this point, we're not looking to sign off on that. And that's going to be the working group, and we can hash it out on Thursday. But I think at this point, we need as a commission to move forward with one entity filtering information for the plan, so that we're not going back with a million different drafts back and forth and double checking, has anybody reviewed X, Y, and Z? When we're all in one room, if we can all agree to it.
So what you're talking about is sending to the commission on the 8th of June for a vote of acceptance of, would that be before or after the formatting?
That would be after, it would be a complete document within the time frame. 2 weeks before then would be, I'd have to double check with it.
So what you're contemplating is coming to the full commission on June 8th, which is when our regular meeting is scheduled, and deciding at that meeting whether to send it to public hearing. Is that what you're saying?
So the public hearing in July, right?
So the public hearing will be in July. I don't have my chart in front of me. July what? You have the calendar?
Yeah, I can give you one in a second. Probably July 6th.
July 6th?
Working back, I mean, we certainly talk about it again on
Well, that,
Thursday, but
I'll stretch it one more month. If it's gonna get it done by July 6th, public hearing. So we can even move to send it to public hearing on July 6th now.
I would wait until after we have this Thursday meeting to discuss the schedule.
I don't want you coming back, you meaning the committee, saying that we need to go into August or September.
In that timeline, there's a number of checks for both the working group and then it moves forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission to be engaged in it. We just shouldn't get to that point where there's glaring changes. If everybody's reading the document but it's up to the Development Commission at the end of the day.
But the way I framed it about a month and a half, 2 months ago was, we have an ad hoc committee that's charged with what the full commission would be doing, because having the input of the full commission is just going to open up the door again to 9 different potential ideas. And I don't want to do that because we've been doing it essentially for 4 years.
But they do have to sign off on the final document.
They can sign off if the 4 of you that are meeting regularly or semi-regularly or nearly regularly, saying, this is it, we're happy, it's good, we're blessing it. If that happens, I think the rest of us will probably go along with it.
But within that
This-
timeframe, I've put a couple dates within there where the commission gets the opportunity to review what's being done, just to make sure that we don't get to June 8th and then.
Have a big disconnect.
Well, that will not happen.
I'm just putting it, I put it in there, that's all. Doesn't mean.
I think the remaining 5 members of the commission that will be criticizing whatever you come up with are probably ready to go now. How's that?
They want to embarrass themselves, that's okay with me.
Well, it's not a question of embarrassment.
No, it's a question of embarrassing themselves. Because it's not ready for prime time. It isn't.
But it's never going to be ready for prime time. As long as we have
It's not
individual
easy.
members that come into the process at different points. I mean, look at this commission. Is this the same commission we had a year and a half ago? No. If this goes much beyond July, you're going to have an entirely different commission, almost entirely different commission. I can almost guarantee that. So at some point, we have to say, this is good. And I don't think it's a question of embarrassment, it's a question of whether we have a workable plan of conservation and development, as opposed to what we have now, which is workable but not satisfactory.
I'm sorry, I disagree. If the commission doesn't buy into the plan, they won't follow it.
But it's a
That's the
different,
tradition in this town,
But-
of not using it as guideline and not having a plan. Why bother making a plan if you're not using it? That's why the buy-in of the commission is important.
but it's
Is every-
which commission though, Alan? I mean, it's gonna be a different set of commissioners.
Then it should be what we want,
But even
what
if
we
it's-
as a commission want.
Even if it is a different set of commissioners, it's what the public has said that they want, and all the other boards and commissions who have been involved. It shouldn't ultimately be the decision of these commissioners. We're just a conduit to the information that people have filtered to us, so therefore we need to support it. If the commission
But that
changes,
information, Christine, with all due respect, is greatly nuanced. I mean, it's what you take from it. I mean, when we speak about the public, this public of 13,500 people consists of maybe 20 people that have been involved throughout the process. I mean, let's be realistic about it. That's my concern. All I know is we can talk about it ad nauseum, and we're never going to have the perfect plan. We're just not going to. How long did it take to draft the Constitution of the United States? Probably less than it's taken for us to do a plan of conservation and development.
They only have
How long?
a smaller committee.
They had a smaller committee, that's true.
We're still
That's why I
writing, we're still writing.
constituted a committee of 4.
Yeah, we're
That's why I placed 4 in this committee. And those are the 4 that I felt would have the greatest input and the best input.
I wholeheartedly believe that we're putting forth a plan that the public wants. I really do. Parts of it will need to be delve into once the plan is complete. We're gonna need to do a lot of research and a lot of work post-plan to complete some of the areas that are just, there's gaping holes that we just don't have the ability to address them. But I think we have to have faith in the document that we're putting forth. There just really isn't a point. If everybody agrees that it just really doesn't have any standing, then what is the point?
Can I ask Eric just to clarify something? When you say we're in the 10th year, does that 10th year expire, is it a fiscal year that's expiring June 30th?
No, it's
or is it
December.
calendar?
It's a December.
Okay, thank you.
I was just trying to see if we could get it done in the 9th year. Now we're in the 10th year.
So we were going to make a motion to move forward on a process, which is not a timeline. Is that something you want to do? Or you want to discuss it further on Thursday?
I would welcome any motion that makes us adhere to something.
Christine, how long do you think it'll take to get done, or Alan?
However long it takes.
Just,
No, I think
you
we're
just
looking.
can't keep saying that.
You're looking for a day or?
A month, a month.
3 or 4 months probably. And it would be nice if other people worked on it. And if other people were committed to it before it comes as whole cloth before the commission.
But you see what happened, Alan, is we had CME engaged in this, they were doing it, they were submitting chapters monthly. We were engaged or disengaged, whichever way you want to characterize it, as a commission. We checked off on it, and then we came to almost at the end, and there were some substantial issues that were raised by some of us. We are now engaging in those issues that were raised by some of us. But that process has to have finality as well. So to say that we haven't been involved, well, maybe it was lack of interest by certain members. I reviewed it, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not a planner. And I relied on what was being submitted and the fact that no one was speaking up and checking off every chapter as it was presented. So I assumed, shame on me, that we were ready to go sometime around December. We're not, but it's more than that. It's now almost a review of the entirety to the point where it seems almost impossible to satisfy some members completely by June, July, August, September. Just pick a date. So I'm wondering, does it matter that it be the perfect plan, or is it more important that it be a better plan than the one we have? Because we're in the 10th year. That's all. So whichever way you want the motion, I'm willing to entertain it, discuss it, and vote on
I
it.
would make a motion that we adopt the motion that was inherent in Christine's prior presentation about the process, and that we're going to handle it through the coordination of CME at this point. The next, it's not part of that motion. I think the next motion is when Christine finishes that time analysis.
I've seen it, by the way, because Christine and I have discussed it.
Yeah.
And it looks fine to me, but I'm concerned that the dates are going to be altered once we really get into it.
Well, I'd like to bring it forward to the working group on Thursday and see if it's something they can commit to. If we can commit to it, then I need buy-in from the working group. If we don't have that, then as you know, we can't move forward with that date.
And that would be this Thursday.
That's this Thursday.
Barring a cataclysmic event, you're going to meet.
And I have to go.
Okay, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's what we'll do. But the next regular meeting, if we haven't made any substantial progress, I am going to ask for a motion to set this down for a public hearing in July. Is that fair? And I'm sure I'll get the motion. And a second. And then we'll vote on it.
John, do you have any concerns about what I would suggest in terms of the timeline, and we really need more time to look at it.
I don't, in a vacuum, I don't. The only concern is that at this point, we are in responsive mode. We haven't been asked to take a chapter and rewrite it because it's not good enough. We have been asked to respond to very specific comments on a week-to-week basis. So at this point, we CME, are in an entirely responsive basis. So your schedule is my schedule. I'm done when you say I'm done, and when you're done making changes. So
Are you happy with it?
with what?
With everything we've done?
It's not a matter of
That's
whether I'm
another
happy or not.
No, I mean, honest, I just want, you know, we pay you $1,000 a week, give your opinion. Your honest opinion. Should this go on
I think
another
it's-
2-3 months?
No, I
You can say it, just be honest.
I'm neither happy nor unhappy. I'm frustrated by the length of the process and the back and forth. But
With the commissioners.
but simultaneously, we're committed to providing a good product to the town.
Yeah.
Speaking of, is there a GIS component to this that you have in-house at CME?
And to what end? Yeah, yes, but to what end? Like a lot of the mapping is a little goofy because Mr. Jessic hadn't provided sort of a parcel by parcel breakdown. But what are you talking about specifically?
Well, when we get the final product, is that going to be part of it?
The mapping?
Yeah.
Of course. And there's been a first draft of the future land use map that's up for discussion, but yeah.
So there'll be a GIS later.
Yeah, absolutely. And
That's in scope.
in each of the draft chapters you've gotten, particularly the what are we calling them now, planning focus areas, those have maps associated with them, GIS maps associated with them.
Those are already GIS.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm not, if there's something more nuanced that I'm not understanding, but
That was
yeah.
a question I think I raised.
You raised the question.
Right.
The
We
planning.
want the layers to build or rebuild maps.
And there was a question whether it was in scope or not. We just wanted to clarify.
It's
Can you
within the
clarify?
scope of this effort by CME, correct?
Yeah, the
Okay.
plan includes the maps. If you're talking about turning over GIS shape files at the end of the process, we can do that, that's not a big deal. Yeah.
So one more question, do you think we need another 2-3 months?
Yeah, at the rate you're going, yeah, absolutely.
Is there a way that you think that we could expedite that?
Change the process right at the beginning.
Change the process or have the working group or the entire planning and zoning commission make all of their editorial suggestions all at once. Take on 4 chapters a week rather than 1 chapter a week. The process really isn't done until the working group has signed off on all of the draft chapters. That's up to the working group.
The train only travels as fast as the caboose.
Unless you unhitch the caboose and the train goes faster.
All right, are we going to move on this in terms of having a motion? Alan suggested a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, I look forward to the structured outline by next meeting, whatever that is, in April. First week in April, right? First Monday, second Monday in April.
It's gonna
Oh,
be,
right, the 13th? April the 13th. Okay. Thank you for your continued efforts. I'm frustrated because I was hoping that this would be a done deal by the time my term was up.